A strange signal, unmistakably human, echoes through deep space, intercepted by the alien fleet. Yet when Earth is questioned, they deny sending it. The unknown lingers in the vast emptiness, a pulse of unintentional communication that sends ripples of dread across the galaxy. The silence in the alien command center was overwhelming. Qatar stood before the massive screen, his eyes locked on the data streaming across it, a deep unease rising within him. For hours, they had monitored Earth, trying to piece together the cryptic pulse that had shattered their fleet. It was supposed to be a straightforward mission, a calculated strike on a primitive species, a test of their dominance. But the pulse had changed everything. "Commander Qatar," a young officer's voice trembled as they turned to face him. "We've intercepted something, a signal. It's human." The words echoed in the command center like a thunderclap, sending a ripple of confusion through the officers. The data on the screen blinked in erratic patterns, repeating the sequence of pulses that had knocked their fleet offline. But this time, it wasn't just an anomaly. This time, it was something more, something human. "It can't be," Qatar muttered, stepping closer to the screen. "Human? Are you certain?" The officer nodded, clearly rattled. "Yes, Commander. We've cross-referenced it. The patterns match human communication systems. It's not a mistake. But here's the issue. Earth has denied any involvement." Qatar's heart skipped a beat. Earth had sent the signal, no question about it. The technology was primitive, yes, but the signal was undeniably human, like a scream in the vastness of space, carried across the emptiness with desperate urgency. The pulse had torn through the Council's most advanced systems, and now Earth was denying it? A bitter laugh escaped Qatar's lips, though it was hardly a laugh at all. Deny it? They can't deny something that's already out there. They've made a mistake, and now they're trying to cover it up. The officer hesitated. "But Commander, this isn't like anything we've seen. The pulse is growing. It's spreading across the sector. Every time we try to isolate it, it grows stronger. The humans claim they're not responsible." "But," Qatar turned abruptly, his eyes blazing, "then they are either lying or completely unaware of what they've unleashed. Either way, we cannot let this continue. They might not realize the threat they pose, but we can't afford to wait for them to figure it out." He motioned for Drax to approach. "Prepare a response team. We'll send a delegation to Earth. They will not lie to us face to face. This signal is not an accident. And if the humans won't claim responsibility, we'll find the source ourselves." Drax nodded, but his expression was one of concern. "Are you sure this is the best approach? What if—" "We don't have time for hesitation," Qatar interrupted, sharply. "We must confront this, even if they refuse to admit it. Earth will not hide behind their lies while they play with forces they do not understand." On Earth, the atmosphere was thick with uncertainty. Laura Carson stood at the center of her lab, staring at the readings on the screen. The data that had caused all of this, the pulse, the signal, was impossible. It was impossible that something so powerful could have come from a simple experiment gone wrong, and yet it was real. It was in the air, in the systems, spreading across the globe. The alarm system blared again, the lights flashing red as another power surge hit. The pulse was intensifying. It had already caused enough disruption to cripple military systems, disable power grids, and even distort the communications of every country on Earth. "What the hell is happening?" Raj's voice cut through the panic in the room as he stepped into the lab, his face pale. "We didn't do this, Raj. I swear we didn't." Laura's voice was tight with anxiety. The entire world was descending into chaos, and all they had was a broken theory and a pulse they couldn't control. Raj shook his head. "You need to tell me everything. The aliens—" He stopped himself, his face going grim. "They know, don't they?" Laura closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the realization sink in. Yes, they know. I don't know how, but they've detected it. The signal, it was meant to be a distress call. We had no idea it would. You called them, Raj said quietly, cutting her off. And now they're coming. Earth is about to become their battleground. Laura turned toward him, her expression hardening. I know. But I swear to you, Raj, we didn't send that signal to them. We didn't ask for this. The room seemed to pulse with the very energy that had crippled the alien fleet, and Laura knew that whatever the truth was, it didn't matter anymore. The signal was out there. The aliens had heard it. And now, Earth's fate was in the hands of those who had never expected humanity to even matter. Qatar paced in the command center, the tension in the room palpable. The response team had already been assembled. Soon they would descend on Earth, and the humans would have no choice but to answer. But in the back of his mind, something gnawed at him. Why had Earth denied sending the signal? Could they really be unaware of the weapon they had inadvertently unleashed, or was there something far more sinister at play? The signal had echoed through space, and now the silence of Earth felt ominous. The unknown was growing, feeding off their fear, and it was too late to turn back now. Prepare the landing craft, Qatar ordered, his voice colder than ever. We're going to Earth. The tension was thick, but Qatar had no doubt in his mind. Whatever Earth's answer might be, it wouldn't be enough to stop what was coming. The galaxy was on the brink, and the humans had just unwittingly declared themselves its newest players. And that was before Earth even responded. The hum of Qatar's command ship grew louder, a constant reminder of the alien fleet's growing. Frustration. The once seamless operation now felt like a disjointed machine, its parts grinding against each other in a frantic search for answers. Every officer on board could feel the shift in the air. The weight of their failure pressed down on them like an invisible force. Qatar stood at the observation window, staring out into the vast emptiness of space. The planet Earth loomed in the distance, a small, insignificant dot against the infinite void, and yet it had become the center of the galaxy's most dangerous crisis. A pulse, something no one had expected, had destroyed their technological superiority and left them scrambling for answers. Commander, Drax's voice cut through the tension in the room. We've tried every method of communication. Earth denies having sent the signal. They say it's an anomaly, a mistake. They refuse to claim responsibility for the pulse. Qatar didn't turn around. His eyes remained fixed on the blue and white orb hanging in the distance. The arrogance of the humans was staggering. How could they deny something so clearly their own? They had sent the signal. They had triggered the pulse. And now they were. And trying to cover it up. Do they really believe we'll just accept that? Qatar's voice was low, almost a growl. They've broken our fleet, crippled our technology, and now they deny it. They're playing with forces they don't understand. It's not just arrogance, it's ignorance. Drax shifted uncomfortably, his gaze darting between Qatar and the crew members working frantically at their stations. They say they had no idea it would spread this far, Commander. They claim it wasn't intentional. Intentional or not, it doesn't matter, Qatar snapped, turning away from the window. The fact remains, they've sent a signal that shattered the very foundation of our technology. This is no accident. It's a challenge, whether they realize it or not. We will make them answer for this. He turned to face his officers, his mind racing with possible courses of action. Prepare a full analysis of Earth's response. If they continue to deny their involvement, we will find another, a way to force their hand. But we need more than just words. We need evidence, evidence that proves they're hiding something. Back on Earth, the panic was spreading. Laura Carson sat hunched over her desk, her fingers flying over the keyboard. as she attempted to piece together the puzzle that had been her experiment gone horribly wrong. The pulse had been an unintended side effect, but it had triggered something far more dangerous than she could have imagined. And now, the aliens, the ones she had thought of as little more than a myth, were coming. They had felt the pulse. They had traced it back to Earth, and they were demanding answers. Her heart raced as she sifted through the data, trying to make sense of it all. But the more she looked, the less she understood. The pulse was evolving. It had started as a simple disruption in their local systems, but now it was something more. It was growing, and every time they tried to isolate it, it only spread further. "Faster, Laura!" Raj's voice broke through her thoughts. "The communications network is down again. Every time we try to reach anyone, the line gets cut. We've tried every frequency we know. They're not listening to us anymore." Laura glanced up, her face pale. "We don't have time for this," she said, rubbing her eyes in frustration. "They're coming for us, Raj. They know it's us. We can't keep hiding behind these lies." Raj stepped closer, his face filled with fear. "What do we do now? We've already sent the signal. They're coming to Earth, Laura. The aliens, they're not going to stop until they find us." Laura swallowed hard. The weight of the reality hit her like a sledgehammer. Earth had never been prepared for something like this. The alien fleet, their technology, their military might, was beyond anything humanity could ever hope to match. They had no weapons, no defense. All they had was the pulse, and she had no idea how to control it, how to wield it. "They'll come for the source," Laura said, her voice steady but filled with dread. "If they think we did this intentionally, they'll destroy everything. They'll wipe us out to keep whatever we've unleashed from spreading further." Raj's face hardened with determination. "Then we fight," Laura shook her head. "We don't have the means to fight, Raj. We have to outsmart them. We need to find a way to control the pulse, to make it our weapon. We can't let them destroy us because of a mistake." He looked at her with disbelief. "You think we can control it? We barely understand it." "We don't have a choice," she said, her voice hardening. "If we don't figure this out, it's over. For us." Qatar's ship loomed closer to Earth, the blue planet growing larger with each passing second. His thoughts were cold, calculating, every second of hesitation costing them precious time. They had no intention of waiting for Earth to offer more lies. The humans were unworthy of trust, and their denial only confirmed what Qatar had suspected. They were hiding something. "We'll take Earth by force," Qatar said, his voice calm but filled with deadly intent. "We'll strike quickly, disable their communication, and force them to admit their involvement. This is no longer about diplomacy. This is about survival." Drax nodded. "Understood, Commander. We'll be in range shortly." Qatar's gaze shifted to the officer monitoring Earth's atmospheric readings. "Prepare the assault team. We will deploy as soon as we land." There was no time for negotiation, no time for more games. Qatar's mind was set. The humans had triggered the pulse, and now they would answer for it. There would be no more denials. And once they were on the ground, once they had control, Qatar would make sure that Earth understood the cost of crossing the Council. Back on Earth, the pulse was spiraling out of control. The signal had already echoed through the alien fleet, and now it was a matter of time before they arrived. Laura had one last chance to figure out how to control the force that had brought them to this brink, but every moment spent waiting felt like an eternity. The truth was clear now. They had unleashed something beyond their understanding, and the aliens were coming to claim it. In the silence of her lab, Laura typed the final line of code, hoping against hope that it would work. But deep down she knew the truth. Earth had no answers. And no matter how much she tried to control the pulse, there was one thing she could never deny. The aliens would come for them, and that was before Earth even responded. The dark expanse of space stretched out infinitely, the stars cold and distant. Qatar stood at the helm of his ship, his eyes narrowing as Earth grew larger on the screen. His mind was sharp with anticipation, but beneath the surface, a gnawing doubt continued to grow. The signal, undeniable and clear, had been sent. Yet Earth denied it. It made no sense, and it frustrated him. The humans had played their cards, and now they would face the consequences. "Commander, we are entering Earth's atmosphere." Drax's voice broke through his thoughts, steady but carrying an edge of uncertainty. "We are cleared for landing." Qatar took one last look at the blue planet, the one that had ignited this crisis, and turned to face his crew. The tension in the room was thick, their eyes filled with anxiety. The unknown pulse was unlike anything they had ever encountered, and there was still no answer as to how it worked, why it had been sent, or how it was growing. But one thing was certain: it was human, and the humans had no idea what they had started. "We'll land close to the pulse's origin," Qatar ordered, his voice cold and commanding. "Once we're on the ground, we'll find out who is responsible for this and end it." On Earth, Laura Carson sat in front of the blinking screen, her eyes strained and bloodshot from hours of searching for a solution. The data from the pulse had been processed, reanalyzed, and run through countless simulations, but nothing added up. The pulse continued to spread, and Earth's defenses were starting to fail in the process. The aliens were on their way, and all they had was an unknown force that was as much a threat to them as to their enemies. "We need more time," Laura muttered to herself, staring at the flashing countdown on the screen. It was a ticking clock, each second more excruciating than the last. Raj stood behind her, arms crossed, watching her with a mix of hope and dread. "Time's running out, Laura. The aliens will be here soon. What if they come for the pulse?" "They will," she said, her voice low and defeated. "But they don't know what they're dealing with. If we can control this pulse, we might have a chance. If we don't, we're done." Raj took a step forward, his tone more insistent. "We need to make a decision. If we don't stop the pulse, they'll use it to wipe us out. Or worse, they'll take control of it and turn it into a weapon against everything in the galaxy." Laura turned to face him, her eyes full of raw fear. "I know. But how do we stop it? How do we fight a force we can barely understand?" A soft beep interrupted their conversation, and Laura's fingers flew across the keys as she pulled up the latest data. Her heart skipped a beat as the screen flashed with new critical information. The pulse wasn't just an anomaly anymore. It was adapting. It was evolving, mutating in real time. The more they tried to shut it down, the more it fought back. "It's alive," she whispered, her voice filled with shock. "This thing, this pulse, it's not just a signal, it's a force of nature. It's growing, changing, feeding off the energy we're trying to suppress." Raj's eyes widened in disbelief. "Are you telling me this pulse is, what, self-aware?" "I don't know," Laura replied, her voice trembling with the weight of the realization. "But it's reacting to us. It's like we've triggered something far more dangerous than we could ever have imagined. And now it's trying to survive. If we can't control it, we'll lose." Qatar's ship descended through the clouds, cutting through the atmosphere as it approached Earth's surface. The closer they got, the stronger the pulse seemed to resonate. It was impossible to pinpoint exactly where it was coming from. But the ship's sensors were picking up a steady wave, almost like a heartbeat, pulsing from somewhere below. Every second that passed felt like a countdown, both to their descent and to the inevitable confrontation with whatever awaited them on Earth. "Commander," an officer said, his voice tight with tension, "the pulse is stronger here. We've located its epicenter. It's coming from a facility just outside the capital." Qatar turned toward the officer, his eyes narrowing. "Send the ground team ahead. I want answers now." The landing craft broke through the cloud cover, and the landscape of Earth unfolded below them. Strange, untamed, filled with so much life. Qatar had underestimated the planet, and now he was about to face the consequences of his ignorance. The humans had triggered something far more deadly than anyone could have predicted. The pulse was only the beginning. As the ship touched down on the Earth's surface, Qatar felt a deep unease settle in his chest. The planet below, once so distant, now felt far too close. He knew they would soon be face to face with the very force that had brought his fleet to its knees. And as the hatch of the ship opened, Qatar steeled himself for what lay ahead. He had no idea what the humans had done, but he was determined to find out, and if they were responsible for this, there would be no mercy. On the surface, the wind whipped around the landing party, the air thick with tension. Qatar stepped onto the soil of Earth, his boots sinking slightly into the unfamiliar terrain. Ahead, the facility that was the center of the pulse loomed. The energy coming from it was almost tangible, a pulsating force that resonated in his bones. The pulse was here, and the answers, whatever they were, would soon be theirs. But as he took a step forward, the ground beneath him seemed to vibrate. A warning, something was coming. "They're here," Drax said, voice low and tense. "The humans are about to make their move." Qatar's eyes narrowed. "Then we'll meet them head-on. We came here for answers. We won't leave until we have them." And as the pulse thrummed louder, Qatar realized that this planet and its unknown power had become the greatest threat to the galaxy. The game had just begun. Qatar's boots hit the dirt with a soft thud as he stepped onto the surface of Earth. His gaze swept across the landscape, the foreign terrain under his feet feeling strangely alien, despite the gravity being the same. The pulse, now unmistakable in its intensity, reverberated through the ground, making the very air feel charged with energy. His fleet had been crippled by something far beyond his comprehension, and now, standing on Earth's soil, he could feel the danger closing in. "This place, it reeks of something we don't understand," Drax muttered, his voice tight with unease. The towering alien stood next to Qatar, his gaze scanning the horizon, his posture stiff. The crew's fear was palpable, but Qatar couldn't afford weakness. They were here to confront the unknown, to take control of whatever force the humans had unleashed. It was their only option. "Focus, Drax," Qatar snapped. "We've come this far. We'll deal with whatever lies ahead. We've lost too much to turn back now." Ahead, the facility that seemed to be the epicenter of the pulse loomed ominously. The energy radiating from it was thick, almost suffocating. As Qatar's eyes narrowed, he saw the flicker of lights in the distance, the faintest hint of movement, a signal. They weren't alone. "Deploy the landing team," Qatar ordered. "We move in now." The pulse was only getting stronger, and with every step, Qatar felt the ground beneath him vibrating. It was as if the planet itself was alive, reacting to their presence, pushing back against the invading force. It was a stark reminder of how vulnerable they had become. This wasn't just a weapon, it was a force that had taken on a life of its own. The team moved swiftly, weapons ready, as they approached the entrance of the facility. The pulse seemed to be emanating from deep within the structure, and Qatar knew that the answers they were looking for lay beyond those walls. The humans had made a grave mistake by denying responsibility for the signal. Now, they would face the consequences. Inside, the facility was eerily quiet. Flickering lights cast long shadows across the sterile hallways, the hum of machines barely audible over the pulse's steady thrum. It was as if the very air had been charged with the same energy that had shattered their fleet. Qatar led the way, his mind sharp with focus. Every step brought him closer to the heart of the mystery. What had the humans done? How had they unleashed something so powerful? He didn't know, but he was determined to find out. As they reached the central chamber, Qatar's eyes locked onto a strange machine, a console pulsing with light. the very source of the pulse. The power was undeniable, but something about it felt wrong. The machine wasn't just a tool, it was something more. And in that moment, Qatar realized that the humans hadn't just triggered the pulse. They had unwittingly awakened something far greater. Before he could react, the lights in the chamber flickered and then went out, plunging them into complete darkness. A voice echoed through the room, cutting through the silence. They thought. It was Mercy. It wasn't. Qatar's heart raced. The pulse had awakened, and now the galaxy would feel its full force.